An old Roman proverb says, mens sana in corpore sano, which means a healthy soul in a healthy body. How right this proverb is if we consider all the young people shown here, judging at least by external appearances and by the broad smiles on their faces. But can this also be true when the body of these youngsters is not all healthy, but afflicted by the results of paralysis? Apparently this is possible, as most of these youngsters are well adjusted and happy, although they suffer from various degrees of paralysis following poliomyelitis, which between 1948 and 1958 left in its wake in Israel several thousands of children with varied degrees of paralysis. They have been active in various sport activities, and this has helped them to a large extent to overcome many of their difficulties. Here is Mickey, now a boy of 13. He also suffered from it at the age of 1 year and remained paralyzed mainly in his lower limbs. He too today ranks amongst the happy lot of children. 1.5 years ago, he attended a regular school together with able-bodied children. But whereas all the others were healthy, lively children, rushing off after school to their games and homes, Mickey could not do this. He was sad and resented his lot. Attendance at school stressed his handicap compared with his schoolmates. Though the degree of his paralysis was moderately severe, he did not even show the speed and the agility that could be expected from him in spite of the paralysis. He should have been able to do things much better, much faster. Others similarly handicapped, who were kept in training and participated in sport activities, could do much better. Mickey did not participate in those activities at that time. We suggested to him to join the Spiewak Sports Club for the handicapped and to take part in sports activities with other handicapped people. Would this improve his agility, his speed? Would this improve his moods? Would that help him to overcome his difficulties? He too would have liked to play games, but how could he do it? He was then included as one of the children in the experimental groups of a research project on the influence of sports on paralytic children. He was tested before to see what his muscle strength was, although it was known that the muscles would not increase in power after such a long time of paralysis. Careful tests were made of the speed of his walking on surface, which was slow in relation to his disability, his walking on stairs, going up, and going downstairs. The tests were performed with his usual appliances, crutches and braces. He was tested on elevation on a ramp, and the time taken to do all these things was registered. His balancing on a beam was also tested. He did all this, but it took him a very long time to do any of those performances, much slower than similar handicapped children would have done after participating regularly in various sports activities. This test was extremely slow for a child or for his ability. A further 130 similarly handicapped children underwent other types of exercises in order to compensate the paralysis in the lower limbs by hypertrophy of the unaffected upper limbs and trunk muscles. Others went in for exercises in swimming in order to develop the trunk muscles to its maximum and to strengthen the weaker ones. Mickey started the sports activities as one of the experimental group and participated in training in various sports. Here he tries to enter the water for the first time in his life without his braces. He could not swim before. He is getting instructions in swimming as other handicapped children have done before, and thereby achieved so much more in their lives and in their daily activities. At first, he was a bit afraid of water, like others before him had been. He soon overcame that difficulty, the same as the others had. He likes swimming very much, and this is the most suitable sports for polio-stricken children. Like javelin throwing, it develops the unaffected parts of the upper limbs, strengthens them, and gives the child that other power which is required for more agility in everyday activities. Another sport he took part in was table tennis. He learnt it very quickly. He never thought he would be able to play it. He took to swimming like a duck to water. Others had already become very proficient. Mickey progressed too. This allows us to observe the swimming underwater and to correct when necessary. This girl has achieved a high standard of swimming because she has participated regularly in sports for a very long time. All these children like basketball wheelchairs. Although most of them can walk with their crutches and braces, yet they use the wheelchair, as this provides them with an easy way of moving quickly. Mickey learned to do that too. Were also victims of paralysis of the lower limbs as a result of spinal cord injury. They are veterans of the Israel War of Independence. They became acquainted with basketball on wheelchairs a long time ago and have regained their confidence through it. We have tried in this research project using various tests to find out objectively how this will affect Mickey and the other 130 children. The tests were both physical and psychological. This man was in a similar position to Mickey's many years ago, when, as a victim of polio, he could then do very little. And now, through regular sport activities, he has overcome not only his physical, but also his psychological difficulties, and learned to become an experienced craftsman. He can now play ping pong very well. He can even challenge an able-bodied man, but he does it from a sitting position. Mickey learnt it too, and he liked it. He found it great fun and an opportunity to develop his muscles. The same applies to these girls in this sport. And to this boy in throwing the disc and the javelin. All these activities have greatly helped to improve agility, but the results varied from one group and degree of paralysis to another, from one age group to another, and our research project allowed us to make a full study of the various impacts, taking into consideration various constants. The children were retested after some time, and the degree of improvements in performances were noted. and found they varied very greatly. Usually, the greater the handicap of the children, the more improvement there was. Certain groups of children at a certain age benefited more than others. This time, most of them performed the tests better and quicker. For the purpose of our research, we have divided the subjects undergoing our studies into 4 groups in accordance with the degree of their disabilities. Those with the lowest degree of paralysis were grouped in the 81 to 95 category. Those with a somewhat higher degree of paralysis are in the 66 to 80 group. And those with a still greater extent of paralysis and using usually 2 long leg braces and crutches are in the group 51 to 65. Finally, the most severe cases are in group 50 and below. Our studies showed that the improvement varied significantly from one group to another. The results shown here, for example, are expressed in percentage of improvement in speed in the elevation on stairs after a period of participation in sport. Thus, in group 81 to 95, the improvement was about 10%. In the next group, 66 to 80, it averaged about 20%. The highest degree of improvement was in the more handicapped group, marked 51 to 65, and amounted to 25%. The most handicapped group of below 50 points improved only by 15%. We also tried to find the correlation between the degree of improvement and the length of participation in sport activities. Those children who participated for only 1 to 5 months in our activities improved on retesting by an average of a mere 5% in performances. Those who participated regularly for a period of between 6 to 10 months improved by 10%. Similarly, participation of 11 to 15 months gave them an improvement of 15%. Those who continued for 16 to 20 months also showed an improvement of 15%. Among other things, we also investigated the relationship between the improvements which took place and the age group of our subjects. It was thus found that children aged 10 till almost 12 years averaged an improvement of 10%. The best improvement was noted amongst the children in the age group between 12 to 14 years. Those in higher age groups also improved, but not to a marked degree. Now, after having taken an active part in sports for such a long time, Mickey manages to face life better. He can perform his daily activities quicker. He can walk quicker. He is happier. He can now face life with all his difficulties as a handicapped child, much better prepared for it, both from the psychological point of view and from the physical point of view.